Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jim Welsh, Vice President of Operations, Stevens Van Lines, and welcome to the TCS Quality Hour. Joe Biskner, President and Chief Operating Officer of Stevens Van Lines. How are you today?
I am doing just fine, James. Just all you listeners out there, I want you to know that we at Stevens had our Stevens family reunion last night where we got an opportunity to celebrate the tenure of our employees and all of their success stories. And so we've got a great lead-in for today's topic because it's about hiring employees who care. So this is going to be a great day. We had a great night last night, and we need to move along here because we've got much content.
Click.
Reminder to everybody out there that the phone lines are open. We would prefer if you have the opportunity that you type questions in, and as we go along, we'll take those questions where they're most appropriate and get you the answers for them. If you weren't there last night,
Yeah.
the other thing that happened last night was a first. Stevens has always recognized our Professional Van Operators of the Year. It's a very competitive process. And this year, for the first time, we recognized an agent driver, Charlie Austin from Gasperson Transfer and Storage. And it was quite an evening. My friend here, Jim, was able to put Charlie's wife on the phone so she could hear the broadcast from home. And so she got to participate in the honor for him. Unfortunately, Charlie couldn't be with us today because, like any PVO of the year, he's out loading today. So he's already taken the accolades and said it's time to move on. And so he's pleasing the next customer. But it was a great time. We're very proud to have Charlie working with us and look forward to celebrating the next Professional Van Operator.
Yeah, I think his speech last night really showed, why he deserves that honor.
Amen. I understand that everybody's gotten some communication about our regional sales seminars that are coming up. We've got one that fills up fast, and that's in Las Vegas, March 15th and 16th, and then in Philadelphia on April 5th and 6th. If you've not heard about these sales seminars or haven't signed up yet, now's the time to do so. Contact anyone in the commercial agency division, and they'd be happy to walk you through that process. Again, I've seen the agenda, and there is great content, and your salespeople will definitely leave this seminar empowered to go out and make an impact in their marketplace.
Oh, back in boot camp, Joe. Invites have been sent out. You'll see one in your email Friday and Saturday, and please, I would encourage you, because it's free registration when you register in February, so you need to take advantage of that. Send us your trainer or your key individual so we can make sure that you're trained properly with all of our packing techniques and understand the process of providing a legendary relocation. So we've already had a great sign-up, so do not delay.
Yeah, great opportunity for that lead crew member to come in and do some hands-on training. Also a great opportunity for agent principals, salespeople, or anybody else in your organization to come and meet the people who are in the homes of our customers and get firsthand knowledge of the passion that they have to do what they do.
It's a good point about salespeople. One of the most difficult thing a salesperson has to learn when they're new out there is how to figure packing. So just because you think that this is an event for a frontline service provider, there's nothing wrong with sending a sales individual there to learn how to pack. It will help them with their estimates so they can make sure that they're in line and competitive.
And look here, Jim, this is the first for us. Again, we're able to weave in comments from a military service member and got a great response back on a DP3 order, so I'd like to read through that if you'd allow me to.
Go right ahead, sir.
I gave you guys excellent for all of the surveyed questions because you are excellent. I like the courtesy, professionalism, and the care your movers have taken with my property, both at origin and destination. The customer service representatives I've contacted are all polite and helpful. Although there was some damage to my stuff during the move, the claim adjuster was fast to respond and provided clear directions. if I can just add a comment here, do you notice how many people provided a legendary relocation experience there? The crews
Right.
at Origin, the coordinator, and the claims adjuster. So it's working, folks. The only thing I don't understand is I was told on the phone that someone would call me for a quick claims since the damaged item was discovered at delivery. No one called. I had to make my way through the time-consuming online DPS to make a claim that you guys already knew about. Anyway, I am pleased with my overall moving experience. Thank you for making my move so smooth and painless.
We love constructive comments also.
Yes, we do. And if we can take any lesson from that, it is if you make a promise to the customer, please follow through with that promise.
Right.
Okay, well, we always want to share with you how things are looking here at the van line. And up on the screen is our shipment counts for long-distance move over the next 45 days. We're going to be busy. You can see down there at the totals line, so far this year, over the next 45 days, we've got 435 shipments to load compared to 320 last year. So that's a 35.9% increase in the number of shipments that we're going to be dealing with. So we're expecting a really strong first, second, third, and fourth quarter this year. So be prepped, and we'll get into that at a later TCS hour about prepping up for this busy season. Wanted to share with you that our pricing guidelines had been out for some time. That new pricing went into effect on January 1, and I think now we're finally getting to that normalization of the pricing guidelines matching up with when your estimates are out there. So we had seen some bigger discrepancies, but I think that really was estimates that were given out in the latter part of 2010 before the pricing guidelines get out. So our prices are competitive, and we're singing a nice song in the marketplace. So keep up the good work, and we'll keep providing the great service behind it. Looking at January, again, our long-distance moves surpassed last year. Still struggling with that revenue quality as we work our way through the DP3 process. I think now that it's been declared that the DP3 process is going to be working on 99% of the moves, that we'll now settle into what the new norm is, and we'll just be able to move on with life. So I want to thank everybody for your efforts in increasing our consumer sales and other product lines. Really seeing some strong activity at the local level. So in the short haul moves, big jumps in terms of the number of shipments that we're seeing, and that has a lot to do with the DP3, but again, in the consumer marketplace as well. So things are really cooking out there, so make sure that you are prepped. Hiring is going to be an important topic.
Sure will, because it's definitely satisfaction scores. And hiring folks that care is our topic, and we have some great information and comments about that. As you can see right now, we finished the year 2010 at a 90.09 from our customer satisfaction scores. Still a ways from our goal of 95, and so every effort we make and every evaluation that's made, it's all pushing us towards that goal. From that DOD side of it again, that 46 represents the percentile, correct, Joe?
The percentage of time that we get all 40 points on question 9.
On question 9, right, which I think that actually looks like it's improving.
Yeah,
there you go.
And the January numbers are out here, but in January we cracked the 50% mark. So
good. Good.
Again, we have TCS in our fabric, folks, and it's starting to play out well.
And our international continues to provide a great service out there in the marketplace as normal.
Final numbers from AMSA, again, shows what we've been tracking all year. The Stevens story plays well in the marketplace. Bottom line is our business last year went up 11.2%, while the industry had a 5.1% increase. So we are beating the competition in all product lines, folks. Good stuff. Keep up the great work. Running through the billing days here, again, what the big number here is we're keeping more of the business within our agency family. So we're processing a lot more invoices and payments to our agents. We slipped a little bit on our payment times. We're slipping a little bit on getting paperwork in, but I think that has to do with just communicating out and teaching people how to get that payment in a little bit faster. So we're going to work on that fast and hard here in 2011 to make sure we get paperwork in as quickly as we can, get invoices processed as quick as we can, and get the money in your bank account as quick as we can.
Joe, I just wanted to make one comment on the slide where we have picked up our increase in business compared to the marketplace. That is directly related, folks, to our improvement in our quality. We all know that the pie is not getting any bigger, so the idea is to gain a bigger portion of that marketplace, and our quality scores are the reason why we're doing that, so all across the board.
Okay, enough with the update. Again, it's always our pleasure to keep you updated. Let's talk about why we're really here, and we welcome our guests from Stevens Worldwide Van Lines, our VP of Human Resources, Jan Price. Hi, Jan.
Good morning.
And on the phone, we've got from Executive Moving Services, Jan Valentine. Jan, can you hear us?
Yes, we can, and good morning, everybody.
All right. Well, if you don't mind, we're going to turn this over to the experts and enjoy what you've got to say.
Well, thank you for the invite. I am truly a fan of TCS Quality Hour. Haven't missed an episode, I don't believe. And great communication tool. This afternoon, I'm going to talk about hiring employees who care. And Chuck Bailey with the executive made the recommendation or suggestion on this topic. And obviously, being in human resources, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. So I'm happy to share what information I have with you in the next hour. So really the question is, how do some companies get their employees to be so friendly? And really the short answer is they hire friendly people. So really what we want to look at is, how can we do that? How can we replicate hiring caring, friendly, customer-centered employees? You have to hire for attitude and train for the skills needed. You cannot train someone to have a positive attitude. That is something that they're hardwired for. It starts really at birth with their genetics, and it's some of those things that you do learn in time through culture and what you experience through life. But for the most part, people have an attitude. It's how they're hardwired. One of my favorite things is you cannot send a duck to Eagle School. And I didn't make that up myself. I wish I could take credit for it. It's a 3-minute video you can watch at simpletruths.com. I would certainly recommend it. But the point is, you can't teach personality, and you can't teach people how to smile. It's inherent in them. It's a natural trait that they have.
I just want to make sure that you're close enough to your mic. I always get complained about that. Kurt, how's Jan sound? There you go.
Well, if I don't sound good, then I really feel bad that you're going to miss all of this great material.
Better now than wait for another 20 minutes.
So really, know the characteristics that you're looking for. You can teach someone the skills of the position. You can teach them what our product and services are. But the message and the takeaway is, it's inherent in how we're hardwired. Just a side comment on that is, in the quick videotape on You Can't Send a Duck to Eagle School, one of the things that come across the screen is, if your company mission is to climb a tree, are you going to hire a squirrel or hire a horse? So keep that in mind. You want to hire the right attitude and the right skill set. And it really begins, it's two-sided. It's not just about the candidate. It's also about company presentation. And it begins with our company culture. You're selling your company. You want to make sure that the candidate wants to work for you. Not everyone is just desperate for work, where they can't wait to come and work for your wonderful company. And we do know you have wonderful companies. You just want to make sure you're selling it. You're giving them the right impression. And first impressions are lasting impressions. And that's the first impression of you and your organization to the candidate. Remember, this is a partnership. You're building a partnership when you're interviewing and you're recruiting employees who care. Make sure that, whenever they walk in the door, the warehouse, etc., that there's a greeting. If you have a receptionist, make sure the receptionist greets them. And the person greeting them should know that you're expecting them. Have you ever gone in for a meeting or appointment yourself and you meet the person that greets you and you say, "Hi, I'm here to see Mr. Welsh," and they said, "Oh, I don't think he's here," or "Let me go find them." And it's a surprise that you were going to come in and meet and visit. So let your front office folks know that you're expecting the candidate. The candidate should, at this point, have completed the application if they're in for an interview. And I know time is short, if the candidate's coming in the door, they fill out the application, that's fine. You can have them fill out the application first. And then if you're going to interview them, whether it's planned in advance or at the time they're walking in the door, be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared for the interview. The second half of first impressions make lasting impressions is the candidate presentation, how the candidate presents himself to you and to the receptionist or your office team. Do they project a friendly, helpful demeanor? Facial expressions are important. Is it going to be a long, exhausting day? When you introduce yourself, do they smile? Do they make eye contact? How do they greet and interact with the receptionist? Or do they just come in, have a seat, and wait? You're looking, and truthfully, your receptionist staff, or if it's your warehouse manager or dispatcher, you want to train them to look for those traits in an individual as well. Are they willing to talk? If they're not willing to talk and say hello to the person greeting them, you have to wonder if they're going to feel comfortable enough at least greeting the customer or the shipper. Neat, clean appearance. And I know you guys know this stuff. This isn't new, but sometimes we need to reinforce that. Is the candidate trying to present themselves in the best manner possible, especially if it's an interview? And I'm not saying that a driver or helper needs to show up in a suit and tie. They're going to dress for the position that they're interviewing for. But you want to make sure that, their hair's neatly groomed, that they've showered, that they're not wearing clothes that came out of the laundry basket. And I'm talking about the dirty laundry basket, the wrinkled up, doesn't take time. Because if they don't take time with their self-appearance, they're not necessarily going to take time with your customers' things. So that goes back to that caring piece. But keep in mind, the candidate's going to dress for the position. If you happen to have a business casual office and you wear jeans in the office and maybe one of your company monogrammed logo wear, well, you would expect then your candidate coming in to be dressed almost similar to that. So, dress appropriate for the position, not necessarily looking for suit and tie. But the key is really look for attitude and what the outlook and that person's approach to life is. That's what you're looking for in the candidate presentation. Positive attitude, by the way, not just attitude. All right. When you're looking to hire employees that care, the key is being prepared for the interview. The interview process is probably one of the most single components that we use in our assessment and selection. So be prepared, plan ahead. Make sure the person that greets them at the door has the name of the person coming in for the interview. I always recommend, and I know this isn't easy, try and interview at least 2 or more candidates back to back to back. Maybe not on the same day. It can be consecutive days. It could be morning, afternoon. But it gives you a comparison of their skills, qualifications, and the credentials of what you're looking for. Make sure you conduct the interview in a private setting. No multitasking. Remember, you're selling the company. If you're taking phone calls, checking your BlackBerry, honestly, it's disrespectful to the candidate. So if you're not going to give them the time of day really during that interview, or you have that distraction, how are you going to treat them when they work for you? So don't forget that that's a two-way communication piece. I always recommend review the application in advance. One of the things I see people trip over is they say, hold on a second, I haven't had a chance to look at your resume or your application. And the candidate is sitting there watching you read their information. So at least look at it in advance. It's not even a 5-minute process. Glance at it, know what their employment history is, their track record, and then you can start formulating what your thoughts are as far as clarifying questions. I really do recommend that you have a pre-printed list of interview questions or use an interview template. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, you're asking every candidate the same series of questions, so you can compare what their answers are. And you have now some form of an assessment of who had stronger answers in customer service areas, who had stronger answers in skill set, in empathy, in caring. And then lastly, a nugget I really want you to take away from this call today is use the 80-20 rule. The candidate speaks 80% of the time. You as the interviewer speak 20% of the time.
I need to work on that one, Jane.
I can help you with that. Okay, interview stats. Yes.
Right. If you allow me to, I think when you talk about the questions, and that one was one that you really brought to our company about having a structured list of questions, because it is easy, while you want to hire for attitude, the perfect person may not be out there, but there's somebody that's very close to being the right candidate that is going to have both the great attitude and the skill set. And without that template of questions, it's too easy to get caught up in liking somebody and hiring somebody that doesn't have the skills that are necessary just because you might have gelled in that process. So, you know, that really was important for us and really changed our interview process so that we knew that not only do we get somebody with the right attitude, but they really had the skill set.
And that's a great point, Joe, and I'll come back to that when we look at some sample interview questions on getting contrary evidence, and I'll explain what that is when we get to the slide. Just some information, just so you start seeing where I'm going on the be prepared, and planning for your recruiting and hiring employees who care. One-on-one unstructured interviews have a 19% success rate. A panel interview that's structured, pre-planned questions has a 35% success rate. Behavioral-based interviews, which are classified in the human resource world as best in class, and we're targeting best in class total customer satisfaction. That's what we're gearing towards, guys. That has an 80% success rate. And really that success rate, the definition's on your screen. What's important is that candidate is more likely to stay with your company a year or longer. So it's important to follow the steps on the interviewing and being prepared. Okay, so some of you out there in Radio Land, and I love your format, by the way. It's very fun and interactive. Are asking, well, what the heck is behavior-based interviewing? And it's interviewing based on their real-life experiences. They can't make up the answers because it comes from previous jobs and their real-life experiences. So it's give me an example of when, or think of a time when you worked on a job site and there was a disaster. What happened and how did you handle it?
Jen, are there any right or wrong answers to that?
No, there aren't any right or wrong answers. You can only interpret their answer and then make an assessment if that's how you would want that person to handle a situation if they worked for you.
So since what we're really focused on here is hiring people who care, give me an example of, so this is an open or leading question.
Absolutely.
They are.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Think about an example when you didn't provide excellent customer service. And they're going to stop and think. They're not going to have their pat answer right away. They're going to think about a specific. Give them that 3 seconds to think. Because then they'll start to tell you details like, well, I went to Mr. Smith's house and here's what happened, and they'll tell you the scenario, and it's easier for you then to interpret.
So in the interview process, when you're asking open leading questions like that, and you practice that they're written down in front of you, writing handwritten notes in front of the candidate about how they're responding, do you think that's correct, or you think you should just be more attentive and just looking them straight in the eye while they're answering?
There's two schools of thought on that. It's hard to remember the candidate's good answers, right? And I say good because they're all going to be good. I'm optimistic. If you want to take notes during interview, tell the candidate that up front. I want to remember your great answers. I want to make sure I remember you and what you're sharing with me today. I'm going to take notes. Don't take notes on the application. Don't take notes on the resume. Take them on a separate notepad. Just a key point for those of you from my world in HR, you never alter the applicant's application. You never write on it. You never put a note on it. You never fill in any information on it. Legally, once a candidate has completed it, signed it, and returned it, it should stay exactly the way they submitted it. So if you want to put notes, smiley face, for example, you can use a sticky note. Use a sticky note if that's what you want to attach, but never write on the app. Okay. So some sample interview questions. And we're really looking for empathy and sincerity. We're looking for honesty. These are qualities and traits in employees who care. Just an example, you're packing a customer's belongings and you just broke a piece of china. What do? And if you ask 3 candidates that answer, you're going to get the flavor of a like answer, but you're not going to get exactly the same answers. Some candidates will apologize up front and say, you know, Mrs. Smith, I apologize. I know this is important to you. Let me go get my lead, or let me go get my driver, and we'll take good care of you. Others will give you the deer in the headlight look like, oh no. But it helps disclose their honesty in addressing that.
Right. The things you don't want here, I guess, would be, oh no, they're going to take that out of my pay.
Exactly.
That really made that customer feel good, didn't it?
Tell me about a time you broke a promise at work. What happened and why? You can shift that. Tell me about a time your boss broke a promise. What happened and why? It's very telling. Give me an example when trust was broken by a coworker. That contrary evidence, balanced feedback. The next bullet, what motivates you? The flip side of balanced feedback is, what are your hot buttons? You want to know the plus, and you want to know the minus, the strengths, the weaknesses. Caring empathy. Tell me about a specific situation when you helped a stranger. Now that one they could wing, I suppose. But then you clarify, well, where was this? Well, what happened? What was the situation? Another one is, and you want to be careful how you word it, so you write them in advance. But and this is real in our world. The driver called in because he overslept and he was out too late last night, and he's not going to make it to residence on time. You need to contact the shipper. What do you say? It's very telling on what they would tell that shipper. That also tells you about their customer service skills. Not so much their caring, but it's about their consideration and the professionalism side of how they respond. Okay, well, I am very happy to share the presentation with Jan Valentine, who is with Executive Moving Systems, and he's going to share with us what they do at their agency.
Good afternoon, everybody, and you're going to definitely be a hard act to follow. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Here at Executive, you know, Chuck Bailey is our general manager here, and his philosophy has always been that caring, it starts with management, it starts with the leadership of the company. The process to starting to hire employees that care, you know, didn't start a couple of years ago. It started 13 or so years ago when Chuck Bailey came back. He saw an off list in the wintertime, and he said, why are you having an off list? And He said, you know, how can we show our employees that we care as leadership, as management, if we're going to work you to death in the summertime and then lay you off in the wintertime? So to help show that our employees that we cared, we don't have an off list in the wintertime. We make a commitment that if they come in and do good work for us, we'll take care of them in the winter. And at that point, it was all about quality of employees, making sure that you had employees who had the skills, the really great packers. And as they started going through, we started to realize that we started to really want to hire the attitude, the good person, the person that cares. And so one of the things that we did is when you came in for an interview, you'd sit down and you would talk about maybe your experience, but talk about your family life and talk about your mom and talk about your brother to get a good feel for the candidate. And as it moved on and as we grew a little bigger, Chuck got out of that, and then we realized that the employees were, the prospective employees were coming into dispatch. And we said, wait a minute, you know, dispatch is busy. So what we did was we sent them around to the receptionist office, and the receptionist will give them the application. And one of the things that does is you can get a good feeling about the appearance of the prospective employee. You know, if the receptionist says, and she's a very nice lady, says, man, I don't know if I'd want this gentleman or lady walking in my house. You know, like Jan said, you put a sticky note and say little frowny face, or you put a sticky and put a little smiley face. And that helped get you employees that look good. And then also to do that, we also put 2 questions on the application. The first one being is, who was the most important person in your life and why? Oh, there we go. And what is your greatest, most important accomplishment and why? And we feel that if the applicant takes the time to fill those 2 particular questions out, he cares about what he's doing. He's going to care about the work that he does. And so those are a couple of things that we do to try and help, you know, filter out some of the employees who may not care as much as the other. The other thing that we have, once we have that employee, you know, and hire that employee, one of the things that we have within the Executive Moving Systems family is our core values. And our core values, they talk about caring and honesty, innovation, respectfulness, trustworthy. And we try and bring those core values not only from us as management and leadership, but we try and lead those down to not only us, but also our on-site employees or our warehouse employees. One of the things that we do to recognize that is we actually just started a newer program where if you're an employee, say a packer who notices a colleague has done something that is honest, for instance, breaking that grandma's china and then saying to the customer, look, I apologize, you know, we'll take care of that. That shows the core value of honesty. And so what we do is the person who saw it can then write a note down of what happened and then turn it in. And then in every 2 weeks, what they do is they'll draw a name out. And the person who actually did the nomination gets a little gift, but the person who actually had the caring act or the honest act will also get a little bit of a reward. And that helps us try and keep the core values at the forefront of everybody's mind. Also within our office, we have the core values that hang, whether it's in the administrative side or the dispatch side and so forth, and they're always rotated around every couple of weeks. So one day I could be sitting under the honesty sign, and the next week I could be under the caring sign. And it's just trying to help promote the fact that we care about not only us, but our employees, and not only professionally, but also on a personal level, because we want to make sure that if we can help them in their personal lives, they'll come in and they say, hey, they really helped us out. We're going to take care of executive. So those are some of the things that we do, not only to try and hire the right employee, but also to continue it on to make sure that, you know, they understand that they are a valuable member of the executive family.
Can you hear me? Jan? Jan, this is Jim Welch. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I thought what was interesting on that particular comment there about how you have moving signs that get hung around on the wall in your employee's office. I immediately started thinking about what if some of them don't have walls. But I guess you can make little tripod tents or something and put it on their desk. But I like that. I like that approach. I mean, it really emphasizes the aspect of caring and being involved. Go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just keeps it in the forefront of everybody's mind. And you know, when we try and make our decisions, whether it's hiring or whether it's trying to just decide how to approach a customer, we always try and look at those core values. Are we doing the right thing for our customers, and whether they're internal or whether they're external?
Yeah, and your program of recognizing your employee, having your employees recognize their coworkers for exhibiting those core values, really, you know, shows the buy-in of the process every day.
Absolutely. That peer-to-peer recognition sometimes mean more within the employee group than it does sometimes coming from manager to employee. So both are really great avenues to take on reinforcement and recognition. One of the things that I thought I'd share with you is what our Stevens Company values are. When we talk about core values, we have the We Care shared principles. Shared principles are core values, just different terminology. And obviously, it spells out the We Care through our work ethic, our enthusiasm, you know, coming to work every day and liking what you do and enjoying the people you work with. And obviously, that rolls into customer service and ultimately customer satisfaction. And being accountable for what we do and deliver and make sure our actions follow up what we say we'll do, meeting those deadlines and expectations. And respect for each other, respect within our company internally, respect for our customer, respect for the competition, and most importantly, respect for our customer and our shipper for all of their many memories that we're moving. It's all important to them. It's not stuff to them. That's their world. And then excellence, you know, delivering excellence and building upon excellence and moving our employees to excel.
Interesting, Jan, is that in a lot of the post-move comments that we received about Charlie Austin, who was our PVO of the year, it's in how you see many of these words come up in people's comments about the service that they receive from our service providers.
So true, and they can't be just words on a wall. You have to live them. You have to embed them into the fabric of your organization. It has to become your core values, and you have to reinforce that. And that's a good segue right on to recognition and reinforcement. You know, and just tying back to hiring employees who care. When you show you care, your employees will reciprocate. They'll show that they care, whether it's to you in return, whether it's the morale within the office, as well as how that runs into the customer-facing experience. One of the keys is to make sure you recognize positive, good customer service, good caring employees, recognize publicly and discipline privately. Sometimes we forget. You know, you're out on the job and somebody just did something not so great, and you know, you grab them aside, you rip them apart, and you want to set them back in and continue packing. Well, you know what? Everybody has feelings and emotions, so we're trying to hire that employee who cares with empathy. Make sure you give them that respect in return. And recognition is not always about the prize. And don't get me wrong, Jan, you had some great examples. Reward is good, and it comes in many, many formats. Sometimes reward and recognition is as easy as thank you, shaking somebody's hand. But it really is about the emotion. It's the emotion that you're giving back to that employee, and it's building pride with that employee. And most importantly is it's making that employee feel genuinely appreciated.
You know, it's like, how many times do you say thank you a day to a coworker or to someone that reports directly to you? It takes very few seconds to say thank you, you know, and move on. It doesn't have to be a 15-minute conversation.
Exactly.
So thank you, Greg.
Jim, do you want to share with us input from some of the agents that we've received?
I had a moment there. Yeah. Well, what we want to do, as we always do, is we'd like to bring people into the process. So we went out to some of our agents on the AAC, and what you see up there is some of their comments associated with the aspect of having employees that care. Roger Fisk, you know, as movers out of desperation, we tend to hire on the fly. We have to stay away from that, and I think we can all relate to that. I mean, this is a very much a high and low volume process in terms of what we deal with, and we tend to try to keep our fixed expenses down to a minimum in the off times, and it ends up hurting our customer satisfaction scores. So, you know, hopefully as the economy improves, we can get back to retaining employees and constantly training employees, and retaining employees that care. So it's an excellent point by Roger. He comes up again. People will tell you what they want you to hear. You may not get a better picture.
You may get a better picture.
I'm reading okay, Jan. It was a rough night. We had a party last night.
I apologize.
Okay. You may get a better picture if you hear about them from someone else. In other words, you know, you check their references out. I think sometimes as managers we are afraid to check a reference out because we fall in love with that candidate during the interview. You know, I'll admit to that myself, and it's come back to haunt me at times. So that's another excellent point by Roger. Mark Dreyer, determine what experience means. There you go. You know, how do you define experience? Having a lot of experience could mean that the person has worked for 10 different companies over the past few years. There's a reason why they're moving around. You know, that might mean that they're just here for the money and will jump ship for 10 cents more an hour or 20 cents more an hour, or maybe they just can't seem to be consistent with their performance. Consider a trial period. Sometimes we do a 30, 60, or 90-day trial period. If at the end of that time, if you don't like working here, or we don't seem to think you are a good fit, we part ways. That came from Scott Jensen. Yeah, you hear a lot about the 90-day probationary period. But, again, another practice as a manager, I try to say to myself, I better figure out in 30 days whether or not you're a player or not, and whether or not we want you, because it really doesn't get any better usually after that 30 days, and there's no need, because it really, that person will drag down the morale of your other folks that you're working with you. So 90 days.
Yeah, I'd like to offer this because I've been caught in this myself, and I oftentimes find that we're in the hiring process, which is tough because we all have full-time jobs of doing something else, and processing paperwork is easy, and getting the next crew out is easy. Hiring is what we're here to do. But we often find ourselves getting into the three-bid process. I'm going to look at 3 candidates, and I'm going to take the best of those 3 or the least of the worst. So try not to get yourself thinking about a 90-day trial period, because you probably already saw a red flag when you were in the interview process. Because what's going to happen is that 89 days is going to go by, and you're going to get busy on something else, and you're not going to want to have to go through that process again. Right. So listen to your inner voice. The candidate is never going to be better than what they are right in front of you during the interview process. So, you know, you've got the insights, listen to them. And because I want you to understand that you know, while we don't have a lot of glamorous jobs, we have great opportunity to offer, and we should be proud of the opportunities that we give people to earn a living, okay? We have jobs where, you know, you leave for the day knowing that you worked hard, okay? You're either going to have sore muscles or sore brains or a sore throat because we work hard all day long. But you go home and you know that you've done an honest day's work and you've helped somebody else in what is in their path of life. So make sure that your candidates know that it may not be the most glamorous job, but you're going to really feel the impact of what you do when you enter this business. So
Great points.
Okay, some closing thoughts. Hire for attitude and teach the skills that you need for the position. Don't rush, don't settle, don't panic, find the right person. And Joe, that dovetails on your comment of if there's a red flag in the interview, don't settle. You'll find the right person. Many times when you interview, you go, I found him, or I found her, or she has it. It's the it factor we're looking for in the caring, compassion, empathy when we build our team. Go ahead.
Hey, guilty again. Okay. I have to tell myself, don't let your ego get involved of the assessment. Okay? Because I like to think that I can always take someone that's got some skills and turn them into take that duck and turn them into that eagle. And yes, folks, I have made some mistakes with that.
Well, we all have. And hopefully you learn from them and you critique and you plan and prepare.
I'm working on that one, Jen.
Okay, so you can't teach someone to be happy to your customers. They're hardwired. It's a trait that's inherent in them. It's their DNA. You're looking for that DNA to join your organization. And then as leaders, as managers, as dispatchers, model the values of your organization and lead by example. It can't just be a plaque on the wall. And by the way, I know we have work to do here at Stevens as well within our corporate offices. And we're working on that. We're building a positive, supportive culture. But it starts one person at a time internally. We have to start with ourselves and lead by example. You know, a great point and thought was that I want to share is seek the unique qualities of your best performers. Identify the person that you work with that seems to always do it right and write down what those qualities are and look for that when you're doing your interviews. And lastly, when you display that you care about your employees, they will care in return.
Jan, this will turn out that and prove that we're not rehearsed here, but coming up and is really very important in our industry now is background checks.
Yes.
Should we, in the interview process, as one of our questions, ask the prospective candidate about what, when we do a background check, if we offer them a position, what will we find out?
Well, audience, you can't see the smile on my face, but it's there. The short answer is no. You should not ask that because those background checks should be kept confidential. And I will tell you from past experience, I worked for an organization called Coca-Cola, and they would leave the interview, and we would send them directly to, at that time, a polygraph and a drug test, drug alcohol test. And they knew if they were going to pass or not, and I would, at that point, inquire, is there, they know their background better than I do. Do they have any concerns, is how I would pose the question. And they'd say absolutely not. And they would leave and go to the alcohol drug screen, and their tolerance was off the Richter scale. So the short answer is don't ask. It will get you in possible legal problems that you don't want to get into. And the candidate that's, exercising bad behaviors isn't necessarily going to tell you the truth on those questions.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I guess I'm teeing up for a show that's going to come up soon talking about background checks because it's very important to our company, our customer, and our industry that we only place people in the homes of our customers that we would want our grandmother to be able to serve tea and cookies to. so again, I thank you for that. And I do want to thank Jan and Jan for all of this great input. I certainly have learned something, and I hope that the audience has. And I can tell Jim by the number of notes that Jim was making, he was learning all kinds of things. I am remiss because I forgot to thank Tom Honeycutt from Gasperson Transfer and Storage for allowing Charlie Austin to get to Saginaw, Michigan for our recognition awards last night. And Tom, number one, thank you for that, but probably more importantly is thank you for bringing Charlie Austin to the Stevens organization. This gentleman offered some words after he was recognized last night and talk about attitude. Charles walked, he hadn't met many of us in the room. Probably there was only 3 people in the room that he'd ever met before. And every person that walked into, he shook their hand and said what a pleasure it was to meet them, told stories about his family, and was so humble. And Charlie was on the road last year for 321 days. He got up in front of the crowd. First thing he did was thank his wife, who happened to be on the phone. But then he looked at everyone in the room and said, I want to thank all of you, that I could not have done this without all of you behind me. So that is attitude, and if you can clone it, man, that's what you got to look for, because here's a guy, wasn't a one of us that was ever on a job with him, okay, and you know the kind of situations that many of our PVOs walk into, and to have that type of an attitude, to thank all of us there, I mean, that was great. So again, Charlie, I know that you're not on the call, but I want everybody to shout out to you because you're an incredible human being. And again, Tom Honeycutt, thank you for finding Charlie and bringing him to the organization. Okay, we're winding down here.
Are there any of our listeners that would like to share anything or any trick that they, or technique or method that they use to determine whether someone has a caring bone in their body and how they feel they will fit for their organization? I mean, we would love to have you share that with everyone if you do.
Do we have any questions?
Okay, take out a number 2 pencil and a legal paper, and now we will start the quiz.
I do want to acknowledge that we had a question earlier about DP3 business and whether we could make money doing DP3 business. Someone's going to figure out how to make money at whatever business we have, and we're going to figure that out. And it's going to be tough while we settle into what is the new norm, but we will figure it out. And the way to change that is to continue to provide a legendary relocation experience for our customers, and that will allow us then to be able to sell value rather than just focus on price.
Jan, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Just want to thank you and for sharing executives' approach to hiring employees with care, and really appreciate everything you do for all of our customers and our agents and service providers out there.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
And again, thank you, executive, for helping us with this topic and making the suggestion. For anybody else that's out there, if you've got suggestions, we're always looking for the best ideas, and you have them, we don't. So give us your feedback. Please give us your feedback on this particular topic and how we can improve, and any other information that you might need. If you have best practices that you've developed, we'd love to share them with the rest of the agency family. With that, we will again look forward to our March date of March 16th at noon Eastern Time. We've got a list of topics that we're developing, and can you believe it? We're going to start getting ready for that peak season.
Which
Seems
we
like
expect
we
to be early.
We expect to be early and last long, so you want to carve up right about now. All right, folks. Well, for everybody here in the studio, I want to thank you again for everything that you do for us. Jim, it's always a pleasure. Jan, thank you. Jan, thanks again. Jerry, thank you. Greg, Judy, Kurt, everybody that helps put us this show on. So with that, folks, we'll sign off. Thanks again.